Good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast in Europe and in Iran watching us, and good morning to those on the West Coast who are joining us for today's jointly hosted conversation between Nufti and PACAN, the National Union for Democracy in Iran, and the Persian American Change Action Network. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Cameron Consarinia. I'm the Policy Director for the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Welcome to all of those of you in today's Zoom conversation, and welcome to the many more who are joining us on social media and who will be watching this event later. It's a pleasure to be with you. Our friends at PACAN could not be with us today, but are generous supporters of today's event.
با درود and greetings. Once again, I, Golnar Jahanbani, the spokesperson and co-founder of the Persian American Civic Action Network, or PACAN, I'm proud to exhibit our utmost support of the Humanity musical album, this time as a co-sponsor with the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Throughout centuries, the Iranian civilization has had an intimate affinity with arts, music, literature, and dance, using different genres and special effects to express, exhibit, and relay its periods of joy and celebration, challenges, even documenting history. The great masters of the Persian language from the 9th century, such as Ferdowsi, Nizami, Hafiz, Jami, and Rumi, continue to inspire many artists, musicians, and authors in the modern era. Shahnameh, or the Book of Kings, embodies that collective narrative of the Iranian culture. Iranians, against all the odds, have succeeded to preserve and pass on their glorious literature, arts, and music through various renditions such as oral storytelling or naqali. Such exhibitions were displayed in homes, tea houses, town squares, or in contemporary times through plays and musical symphonies on the world-renowned stages in Vienna, London, Sydney, New York, Los Angeles, and Paris. The Islamic injunctions of the past 40 years labeling such wonders as licentious may have tried to inhibit or annihilate the development of formal musical disciplines, but these prohibitions had a reverse effect and instead came to serve as a vehicle for cultural introspection, political dissent, and personal protests, resulting in various productions of epical songs such as Morgh Sahar and Yar Dabistani Man, or the many productions of Daijan Napoleon. Even in exile, Iranian writers, performers, singers, and musicians facing threats, censorship, and harassment of their family members in Iran by the Islamic Republic have emerged as the iconic role models representing their national musical and artistic heritage. PACAN salutes Humanity album artists Bardia Taghipour, Behrooz Qaemi, and Shaya, who struggled to make music under the draconian restrictions of the Iranian government. And we remain grateful to our moderator of today's event, actress, director, and co-founder of Respect Project, Miss Elizabeth Romm.
On Nufti's behalf, before I give it over to the much more interesting participants of today's event to speak to you, I want to say that often art is a tool to push back against or to break the taboos that societies put on their most artistic and creative individuals. In the Islamic Republic in Iran, unfortunately, it's also a pushback against the restrictions that governments and not just societies put on the people of Iran. I think very often the West, we're accustomed to breaking social norms, but the artists you'll hear from today are also breaking legal and governmental and not just societal or social norms. In fact, a lot of what they're doing today is breaking several laws just by being here with us. The fact that we have women singing is breaking a law. And one of our goals at Nufti is to continue to ensure that the Western audience is familiar with the crimes and the nature of this Islamic Republic. And it's a true pleasure for us to play a small part in today's event and looking at it through an artistic perspective. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Marjan Kapur Greenblatt, who I have the pleasure of working with as an advisory board member of Nufti, but who is doing so many amazing projects. One of them, which is humanity. So Marjan, thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Cameron, for this opportunity and for your partnership. And I would like to also extend my thanks to the POCON organization for their participation. And you will hear from our speakers, from our artists, and from our amazing moderator today. I am so excited to be among all of you and to share with you a little bit about why we have created the Humanity musical album. As it has been said, music is an essential element of Iranian culture. From ancient folk songs to modern hip hop, it has evolved and morphed and helped to create a Persian society throughout the ages. Many Iranian customs and rituals are tied to music, creating an almost intertwined legacy. So although most Westerners might not be familiar with Iranian melodies, its richness and its texture binds us together. And it connects the Iranians living inside Iran and the other ones who are in diaspora around the world. But despite this heritage, it is difficult to talk about the modern day Iran without focusing on the stark challenges of the country. Democratic activists routinely are imprisoned and oppressed. Artists are repressed and censored, and many of them fear arrest and imprisonment for the simple act of singing or reciting poetry. And the list goes on. In light of this ongoing crackdown of artists and musicians, we believe that there is an opportunity. While we cannot solve all the human rights challenges in Iran, we can draw attention to the ongoing violations and simultaneously elevate the voices of artists who, through harmony and poetry, are trying to raise awareness about their experiences. Artists who have been forced into silence. And in my opinion, there's no better path than music. So for this reason, we have created Humanity, a multi-genre musical album with 14 songs and poems performed by Iranian artists who are denied the right to perform in their own country. These songs address challenges such as poverty, lack of freedom, sham elections, war, and unfulfilled dreams, and even love, which is a forbidden topic, especially when expressed by women. These melodies are expressed in various genres, including hip hop, rap, metal, rock, and traditional Iranian tunes. So we hope that you will follow Humanity music and you will support the artists and you will listen to their music and follow their careers in the years to come. Without further ado, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Elizabeth Ram. I have to just mention here before introducing Elizabeth that I had the opportunity to meet Elizabeth through her work with Respect Project, and incidentally, another supporter of the Humanity album, Miss Nazi Eftehari. And another interesting fact about this album is that thus far, all of the supporters of Humanity musical album have been women. And given the mission of this album and our mission to elevate the voices of women and Iranian artists, I am so proud to work with these amazing women who have supported this album and are also collaborating with us. So Elizabeth Ram is an actor, writer, philanthropist, and the founder, host of the Respect Project, a project that you should all know about and visit. She is best known for playing the Assistant District Attorney, Serena Sutherland, an Emmy Award-winning American TV series, Law and Order, of which I am definitely a fan. She has also appeared in Oscar-nominated films such as American Hustle and Joy. Elizabeth is the published author and acclaimed memoir, Baby Steps, and is also a blogger for People magazine. She's an active person in the wide array of philanthropic causes, including the American Heart Association, Go Red for Women, American Red Cross, the Trevor Project, St. Jude, Global Green, and many more. We are so honored and pleased that Elizabeth was able to join us. Elizabeth, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to also acknowledge Nazi and Marjan and just say thank you for these new friendships. And I want to introduce you to three of the prominent artists on the Humanity album. As an artist, I couldn't have been more humbled to be to be invited into this conversation. And one of the things I hope we can achieve here is that we can stand in solidarity with Iranian artists, because I don't know that many people understand the parameters of which they live in the Republic of Iran, and how the government sees music is inherently corrupting, and it's strictly censored and can be punishable by imprisonment and even torture. So the bravery of the three artists here, as well as all the artists who contributed to the Humanity album, is deeply humbling, because I am free to create my art. I'm free to have my voice. I'm free to be a woman who is an actress that wants to become a director and assert myself with that kind of power because of where I live and the country that I live in. So I'm really grateful to be here and have these new friendships, especially with you, Shaya. I can't wait to talk to you deeply and intimately about what it's like to be a female artist in Iran. I want to underscore again that Humanity is a compilation album featuring prominent Iranian artists, some of whom are in Iran, some who are not, some are exiled. Baruz is in London, Bardia is in Germany because of the circumstances of the country that they were living in. And their music speaks to that. So I want to first really encourage you to go to YouTube and Spotify and listen to the Humanity album. Share it with your friends, share it on your social media so that we can stand in solidarity with Iranian artists and get the message out there, one of which I was ignorant myself to know more about. So I'm really looking forward to spending time with you this morning. In response to the environment in Iran, Humanity really wants to fight back against any repressive regimes by showcasing censored art and artists that have dedicated their lives to standing up for freedom of expression and for a world where artists of every gender, color, religion, and sexual orientation can produce their music without fear on behalf of other people. And that's our job as artists, is to speak from our hearts, from our personal experience on behalf of the world and humanity. So without further ado, I also want to introduce you to each of these musicians' songs that is particularly special to them that's on the album. Shaya, we have a beautiful song from you. I'd love to start with it before we talk about, what it's like to be a musician in Iran currently, as well as being a female musician. Cameron will play an excerpt from your song.
قدم به قدم دور و برم نگاه های گرسنه انقدر داشته باز شهرم که دیگه یه جورایی درستم نفساش رو شونه دستاش رو لبه من دیدم اشکی رو که فریاد زده تو ندید.
That is so beautiful and so full of your heart and soul. Thank you so much for recording that song. You are a beloved, very, very well respected, popular female musician, artist, singer, songwriter, and you are in Iran right now. And from one woman to another, I really want to know personally what it is like to record music in Iran where women are legally banned from singing in public, and what this experience is like for you. And if you can share with us, where you feel safe to create music, how you pull it all off, how you can be with us today. We all want to know what your personal experience is currently.
Actually, it was really hard. And, working as a musician in Iran is really hard, but working as a female singer is much harder because, you cannot actually make money of your music here because you're illegal. And the people that I work with, not many people actually are good with us, because they have the opportunity to abuse female artists in Iran because they are silenced. And because of that, it's always, the abuse part of art is always there in every country. It happens every day. But in Iran, it happens and the female singers cannot even sue. And I know many, 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 many singers that are actually working under these circumstances and they just keep going. And I'm just
Yeah,
so happy to be here.
I'm so glad you brought that up. First of all, I didn't realize you couldn't make money off of your art. I mean, I really thank you for allowing me to learn from you today. It's really important that people support, you know, Humanity and each of you as artists, because there's some things we just don't know. So thank you for really being brave and speaking about your personal experience and
Thank you.
sharing also specifically that the topic of that song is about sexual harassment of women, and that's a very difficult topic to get into publicly in any society. So why did you choose that particular topic for your song on the Humanity album?
Actually, I was at the time that we started the Humanity album, I was trying to find a sponsor for my songs. I needed a sponsorship for the songs too, because it's really expensive. And as I told you, we cannot actually make money as female singers. So I had to get a sponsor. And every single person that I talked to, every single person that I spoke to, they just told me that, you know, you cannot do this without a powerful woman, a powerful man beside you. And I cannot say how hard it was to just hear that sentence. They actually thought that no female singer can do it on her own. They actually thought that, and they believed in that. And because of that, I thought that, you know, I know many singers who actually get into the circumstances and they just live like this. They live with their rapists and they work with their rapists. And I just thought that I should talk about it. I should speak up because this is actually a really sensitive thing in Iran to speak about. But you know, because of the fact that this is really hard to talk about, and nobody talks about this in Iran. And also, they actually ask you to not to speak about it. So I just thought that I should do it.
You're incredibly strong and brave, and I want to just really thank you again. Marjan really pointed out how powerful the women are behind her in making this album, and we stand in solidarity with you. Your
Thank
bravery
you.
is just incredibly moving, and I do really hope that if people go and get this album, that they can share the message of your song, particularly because it is really horrifying to hear that this is the circumstances of which you live as a woman, as an artist. And the fact that you're there and you continue to be strong and push your music and your messaging on behalf of other people, I just want to really celebrate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
So we'll continue to move through this, and then I want to come back to you, Shai, and ask you a couple of other questions. Behrooz Gami is in London and has an incredible story, but I'd like to also stay with the music first, Behrooz, if that's okay. And Cameron, if we could play a bit of Behrouz's song. Thank you.
دفعه مردم رای نمیدن هیچ خیری از این دادن ندیدن همه شهر بوده و بین بد و بدتر هر 4 سال یه بار یه کلافتر دیگه طاقت همه به سر اومده ببین چه بلایی سر کشور اومده همه زندگی یا به یه بنده دیگه شنیده نمیشه صدای خنده خفقان سرزمینمو گرفته خدا هم انگار از اینجا رفته دیگه با ما قهرش گرفته از بس آویزون شدیم به هر کس و ناکس شاسون با یه رنگ.
I love it. That's totally different. It's like Humanity is really representing everybody's voice, and that's beautiful. And that song is how pronounce it? Ray by Ray?
Yeah, Rai B. Rai.
Perfect. Thank you. That is about elections, and you hopefully tell us a little bit about what the song is about, but also let's go back in time for a second about when you decided to leave Iran and then being in Europe. You're in London. the incredible achievement of being one of the finalists for the UK Got Talent, which is a level of achievement that most people anywhere in the world could never achieve. But for you to achieve it, also not being a native English speaker is a tremendous accomplishment. So I want to just honor that and mention that to everybody here with us today. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about when you decided to leave your homeland. I know that was a tremendous price for you emotionally, and but you wanted to protect your safety and security. So maybe you could explain that transition for us.
Sure. Just want to start by saying hello to everyone and thank you for having us here in this panel. Dear Marjan, dear Arash, Humanity, everyone behind the scenes. And yeah, going back to your question about the song, well, yeah, this song is about elections in Iran, which is usually the case of choosing between the bad and worse. So you never have the any other option. And it's been going on for the last 40 years. And as a musician, I don't understand why I got into writing such a song, because I'm really sort of a romantic person, and most of my songs, they're very melodic based, and I don't usually do rap, but because I wanted to say a lot, as much as I could within the time frame of a song, so I chose this song to be rap, so I could fit as many words, but after all, again, when I think about it, I don't know where the politics and art, when they kind of, when they come together, this is not really a good combination. It's not really good good result when you mix art and politics together, because they're completely two separate things, in my opinion.
But I think it's really important to say, because I learned this, that the elections are June 19th in Iran.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of your motivation to do something that you don't usually.
Yeah, true. But what I'm trying to say is like, well, when is the other way around? So when have you, do you know any politician who actually been successful in art? I don't know many, or like at least they've been like a singer. Do you know any of the singer? I don't know. I don't know, because politicians should be politicians, and I think artists should be artists. But sometimes, just imagine a traffic light, but if the traffic lights go out, and then there are no traffic lights, or there are no police officers, and so you as a person driving your car, maybe sometimes you should take the responsibility and come out of the car and try to direct the cars and make sure you open the way. So I think sometimes as artists, we feel like we should maybe take action, because the politicians, they're not doing anything for us. And I think that's where usually artists, they try to come and do a bit of, more politic related works. So again, when I came out of Iran, or when I basically left Iran, I never thought that I'm going to write anything about elections. Perhaps 20 years later. And when I say 20 years later, I'm trying to say that I want to speak on behalf of the younger generation who are now in Iran and facing the same issues as I had 20 years ago, which is bizarre. So it's been 20 years on, and we're still fighting for the same rights, for the same we're still fighting for the same issues. And when I hear what Shaya is saying, it's very touching. At least, I mean, for me, just after 20 years, we're still trying to. I mean, with women, it's a completely different story. I really appreciate, because they don't have any live shows or any, but I'm just speaking on behalf of, as I said, the younger generation. But for me, got to the point that I knew somehow that this is not going to be resolved anytime soon. So I had to leave. I had to leave the country.
How old were you when you left?
Say again, please.
How old were you when you left? Did you leave with family, or did you, what was that like for you?
Well, I left when I was in my, I think early 20s, or maybe I was like 19 or 20. Yeah, I was about 20 years old, and I left Iran for a couple of years. Then I came back for 6 months with a dream of, okay, I studied classical music and in Ukraine, and then I came back to Iran. I felt like, okay, maybe I can produce an album or something, but it didn't go anywhere, and I couldn't get the what we call a permission to release in Iran. Because my lyrics were a little bit, just juicy and not really good for the authorities to accept, which in my opinion, it was completely normal. But anything normal in Iran could be basically not normal from the authorities' point of view. So like having short sleeves, it's normal, it's just anybody knows normal. But I remember, and still, I think in Iranian TV channels, if you see someone with short sleeves, you're like, whoa, that's a bit extraordinary. It's just like things like that, just like completely, you think like, but this is normal. So we've got a different understanding. So when you talk to, when we talk to the authorities, it's like we are speaking the same language, but it's like we completely, don't understand each other. So they don't understand us, and we don't understand them. So that's why we never can come to an agreement.
Do you have optimism about the potential changes that are with the upcoming elections, that they could deliver a different life for Iranian artists? Do you have hope right now, because it's so soon, the new election?
Well, since I left Iran, I don't know how many elections been going on, but we've had far too many, and the same promises, same broken promises, one after other. They usually say if you give someone a second chance, it means like sometimes you're giving them a second chance for making more trouble and cause more trouble. And we've given these guys, I mean, more than Jesus, like 11, 12 chances. And I don't see any improvements. As I said, 20 years ago, I could have sat on the same panel and talking exactly what I'm saying now. So 20 years on, and I'm still talking about the same problems, same issues, like music. God, I mean, it's like trying to talk about when you want to run and you're in a running competition and you don't have shoes, and you're trying to convince people and get the idea. It's just like, oh, are shoes good for running? And everybody says like, oh yeah, of course, you gotta have shoes for running. It's like music is good for soul. I mean, everybody knows that. And 20 years on, we're still trying to convince the world that music has got nothing to do with like politics. Why can't we sing? Why can we not play music, or women shouldn't be allowed to?
That's why
very tough.
That's why I think, hope it's not naive, but I'm very, very impressed and hopeful with this Humanity album, that this becomes more a universal conversation, because so much of what you're talking about, which is so deeply personal to you, many people don't know enough about. So this is a way to share that narrative on a global platform. And so I really hope whoever is with us, that you will help us get this album out there to support not only these artists, but everything that Behrouz is talking about. Bardia, sorry to have left you, but I'm so happy to connect with you also. And I wanted to share your song, Baba, which is also very personal to you. Cameron will play a little bit of it, and then I'm very interested in sharing with everybody why you left also. I think it's obvious, but let's talk about you going to Germany and your journey and why you wrote Baba.
روی آب و نون، بابای خسته بی جون، بابای افسرده با دو چشم چشمه خون، بابای شرمنده از هزینه های سنگین، در همیشه بسته، حال همیشه غمگین، لباس خیسه.
So you started out as a songwriter, well, you started out as a street performer, and this song is about poverty, and it's not something that people can talk about in Iran. They can't complain and so on. So I want to talk about your background, you know, and your perspective and what Baba is about and why you wrote it. Cool.
نه من منتظر ترجمه شما بودم.
منتظر ترجمه هستی؟ اوکی. گفتن که میدونن که شما کارتون رو در ایران با در موزیک خیابان شروع کردین، یعنی اجراهای خیابانی شروع کردین و آهنگ بابا راجع به فقر هستش، یه مسئله که در ایران به راحتی نمیشه راجع بهش صحبت کرد یا نمیشه به فقر اعتراض کرد و یه مقداری از تجربه بیای خودتون بگین و همینطور هدفتون از نوشتن آهنگ.
خب میخوایم کوتاه حرف بزنم که بتونین ترجمه کنید، کام راحت تر باشه.
He's going to speak slowly, section by section. I'm going to translate.
من اول یه جمله از گاندی میگم که میگه که بزرگترین ظلم فقره و من فکر میکنم من هم مثل گاندی فکر میکنم هیچ ستمی بدتر از فقر و گرسنگی نیست. یعنی یک انسان اگر بدون هوا بمیره با زجر کمتری میمیره تا از گرسنگی بخواد بمیره.
I want to begin my statement with a quote from Gandhi, who said that the biggest crime against humanity is poverty. And Behruz believes that poverty is such a difficult experience. And if one were supposed to die, it would be probably easier to die without air than to die from hunger.
و من فکر میکنم مسئله فقر مسئله اساسی آینده خواهد بود و فقط این مسئله در مورد ایران یا خاورمیانه نیستش یا آفریقا نیستش. مسئله‌ای که داره به شدت جدا میکنه آدم‌ها رو، یک عده کمی رو از اکثریت جدا داره میکنه، مسئله تقسیم ثروت هستش.
I believe that poverty is a fundamental problem, not just in Iran, but everywhere else in the world. And it is a problem that is actually causing human beings to separate from one another. And that also is a problem related to the way wealth is distributed in the world.
و خیلی خجالت آور هست که ما توی چنین عصری در چنین دورانی که به راحتی میتونستیم تمام آدم ها دنیا نه فقط ما میتونستیم یک زندگی بر حسب فکت، آمار و اعداد و ارقام ما میتونستیم در این دوره چیزی به نام فقر رو در کل دنیا نداشته باشیم و خیلی خجالت آور هست برای من به عنوان یک انسان که بخوام در این سال از فقر بخونم و از اون خجالت آورتر اینه برای من که ما آدم ها چرا باید امروز اصلا بدونیم فقر چیه، در حالی که خیلی منطقی تر این بود که ما فقر رو در واقع درک نکنیمش، فقط بدونیم، فقط این کلمه رو بدونیم که یک کلمه‌ای بوده در تاریخ، ولی متاسفانه اینجوری نشده.
It is, I believe that poverty is shameful in this day and age where with data and science and resources, we could have eliminated. And it's shameful that I have to actually sing about it. And I wish that poverty would be something that we would just know as a word and never have to experience and know intimately.
One thing I wanted to ask is, most people don't know what you went through singing on the street and being attacked that day that I heard about from Marjan. If you're comfortable talking about it, I think it's important to explain to people who are here with us what it's like to even just sing publicly in Iran. And again, I want to thank you for talking about the issue of poverty and so forth. And I think it's important to say to everybody that that's not acceptable in Iran to talk about, to complain, to have any point of view that comes into conflict with the government. So it takes incredible bravery.
گفتن که دوست دارن راجع به تجربیات خودتون به عنوان یک خواننده در اجراهای خیابانی صحبت بکنین و اگر دوست داشتین راجع به تجربه‌ای که حملات و به شکلی که شما رو اجراهای شما رو قطع می‌کردن صحبت بکنین. من راجع به یکی از داستانی که شما قبلا گفته بودین به الیزابت گفته بودم و اگر بتونین راجع به اون مسائل صحبت کنین در ضمن از جرأت و از شجاعت شما تعریف و تحسین کردن.
والا من موسیقی فکر میکنم هر موزیسین این حس رو داره که دوست داره شنیده بشه و دوست داره در راحت ترین و لخت ترین حالت ممکن هم موزیکش شنیده بشه بدون اینکه درگیر برنامه گذار باشه، کنسرت باشه و خیلی از مسائل دیگه. ولی خب فرق اصلی ایران با خیلی از کشورها اینه که ماها باید از یک فیلتری رد بشیم و به قول آهنگ بهروزی یا باید اینوری باشی یا دیگه از ما نیستی و از اون زاویه هم از دید جمهوری اسلامی هم صدق میکنه، یعنی اینکه یا شما با مایی یا دشمنی، کدومی. و شما به خاطر اینکه مجوز بگیری باید تایید بشی و تایید بکنیشون. میخواین تا اینجا ترجمه کنید من ادامه‌شو برم.
Every musician has an aspiration to be heard. Even in the most dire conditions, a musician needs to be heard, whether it is a concert or other fora. But in Iran, in order to be heard, you have to receive permission. And when you receive permission, you have to show your allegiance to them in order for them to show their allegiance and support for you.
و ما به خاطر اینکه اولا یه سری جوان بودیم که دوست داشتیم ساز بزنیم و این رو در روزهای اول یه حرکت کول میدیدیم، یه حرکت خیلی باحال، چقدر خوش میگذره میدیدیم و اصلا هرگز فکر نمیکردیم بخوایم با ریاکشن های خیلی شدید روبرو بشیم باهاش. وقتی که مثلا 4 جوون 22 ساله 20 ساله توی خیابون با گیتار داریم ساز میزنیم و یک سری انسان‌های که به شدت از لحاظ فکری نزدیک بودن به ناندرتال ها، اینها حمله کردن به ما 1 بار 2 بار 3 بار و این فکر میکنم خاصیت جوونی است که وقتی که میخوای جلوش رو بگیری چیز نمیکنه، حساب کتاب نمیکنه چه خطراتی داره و مثلا چه منفعتی من دارم. در اون حالت جوونی ما گفتیم نه، اگه قرار ما به خاطر این لذت شما در جلوی ما واسید، خب ما هم وای میسیم و جنگ رو اونها در خیابون با ما شروع کردن، وگرنه ما قبلش اصلا قرار نبود موزیک خیابونی رو به این شکل اینقدر محکم جدی دنبالش کنیم. ولی وقتی که دیدیم جلوش ایستادن گفتیم خب این چیزیه که من هم دوست دارم، اگه میخوای واسطی من هم دوست دارم جلوش واسطم. یعنی حرف من به عنوان یک جوان فکر میکنم منطقی تر از حرف تو انسان ناندرتال و به خاطر همین دعواهای موسیقی خیابونی ما تبدیل شد به مبارزه خیابونی، ولی نه با مشت بلکه با گیتار و تفکر.
Thank you. We were a group of young people who were playing instruments in the streets. We were, and we never expected in our wildest imagination that we would encounter such drastic reactions from the authorities. But we were attacked multiple times, time and time again, we were attacked. And and it's a nature of the young people that when you're banned from doing something, you're more compelled and determined to do it again. So it was not our intention to follow the street music movement so seriously. But when we had encountered so much resistance, we became more rebellious, and we continued our resistance and our fight in the streets, not with our punches and with weapons, but with our song and with our music.
Well, I just I want to go back to being in Iran for a second, and I want to say, you know, that's so much of what we're talking about now is very deeply personal, and Shaya is there. She's still fighting to be an artist, and women are in Iran still trying to fight, you know, to learn to play instruments and write poetry and even dare to perform it. And I can't even imagine mentally what you go through every day in order to fight another day, like Bardia is talking about. Can you share from your perspective, if you're comfortable, you know, what it's like on a daily basis to continue to reignite your commitment to yourself as an artist, like Bardia was talking about?
From my perspective, I think that this is a battle, and I think that it's gonna change. I really, really believe in change, and I think that not in Iran, every single country that you think about, they all change through the time, and it's gonna get better. I don't know how, but you know, I know that's what I can do, and one of my goals in life is to make an institute for women in Iran, maybe in Tehran, a big institute that they can record their songs, they can compose it, they can do whatever they want, can practice there without anyone. I think that's the first step that I think I can do. That's what I can talk about.
Yes, I understand. I understand very much. I'm just curious, Bardia, I mean, what are your thoughts about musicians in other countries that are not the free world? You know, how can we support them? What is it like to be an Iranian musician in the global market that doesn't share your language? You know, and how can we, with Homanity, continue to push the message forward on how we can stand in solidarity with Iranian artists, but also other artists in countries that are experiencing similar environments with their government?
بردیا جان، الیزابت سوال میکنن که شما چه دوست دارین که موزیک دیگران که هنرمندای دیگه که در کشورهای آزاد زندگی میکنن چجوری بتونن از هنرمندانی مثل شما دفاع و حمایت بکنن، و آیا پیام شما برای جامعه بزرگتر هنرمندان چیه؟
اولا به صورت مشخص با هنرمندهایی صحبت دارم و انتظار دارم که اولا دغدغه‌شون مسئله به طور مثال دموکراسی باشه، مسئله انسانیت باشه، مسئله تفکر باشه، منطق باشه، براشون دغدغه اینها فلسفه باشه، تاریخ باشه و این چنین هنرمندایی در مارکتینگ های بزرگ اولا کمن و یعنی دغدغه ها این روزها دور یک سری مسائل خیلی دیفالت و خیلی پیش فرض آماده مثل سکس، الکل و یه سری چیزای آماده هستش. ولی من در مورد هنرمندایی دارم صحبت میکنم که واقعا دغدغه بزرگشون فهمیدن باشه با اونها چجوری میتونن حمایت بکنن ماهیت نظامی مثل جمهوری اسلامی رو به اروپایی‌ها نشون بدن. این خواسته رو من در مورد موزیک خودم ندارم، در مورد این دارم که آقا به سیاستمدار کشور خودت بفهمون یک کشوری، یک نظامی مثل جمهوری اسلامی قابل مذاکره نیست. تو نمیتونی با گرگ رو بیاری توی گله گوسفندها بشین و باش مذاکره کنی. کشوری مثل کره شمالی قابل تغییر نیست. یا نظامی مثل نظام عربستان قابل تغییر و قابل مذاکره نیست. و من فکر میکنم که این هنرمندا بتونن این رو به سیاستمدارانشون بفهمونن، بزرگترین حمایت رو از نه تنها من کردن، نه به عنوان موزیسین، به عنوان کمک در حق انسانیت دارن میکنن و این فکر میکنم خیلی واضح باشه.
ببخشید. I'm interested in communicating and sharing the message of Iranian artists with other artists who care about human rights and democracy. In larger markets, I know that these types of artists are very few because many artists prefer to talk about lighter topics such as sex and alcohol and other things. But I want these artists who care about human rights and democracy to show the real face of the Islamic Republic to their policymakers. I want them to talk about the real nature of the Iranian regime and the fact that, like North Korea or Saudi Arabia, they're not reformable and they're not worth the negotiations. I want the artists to explain this to their policymakers, not just for me and for artists, but for the sake of humanity itself.
I want to thank you all so much for being vulnerable and speaking from your personal experience. And I'm an artist that will never know, I will never fear for my life in creating my art, which I do every day with so much gratitude. And there are artists in Iran who, much like Shaya, are struggling to be creative, to have a voice. And I'm curious if you could share, especially Bardia and Beiruz, because you're not there, what is your message to those artists? How can you inspire them to continue to be strong and to be artistic and creative and to speak up on behalf of other artists and humanity as a whole? Beiruz, why don't you answer that first and then we'll go.
I wasn't sure if the question was mine because, as you said, I haven't lived in Iran for nearly 20 years now.
But how would you inspire the artists there?
Where, in Iran or?
In Iran, the artists that are there. How would you speak to them? What's your message to them right now?
Don't, in my opinion, the best thing artists can do would be just not to normalizing these activities or the things that are being forced to them by the authorities. So that's one of the biggest problems we're facing at the moment, because we've got a lot of artists that or singers, let's say, or artists, whatever, and actors. So they work with the government, and just because they say yes to the government, and so they represent the Islamic Republic to the world, and so they become the face, and just exactly like what Mr. Zarif is doing as a foreign ministry. So they just basically they show these artists to the world, and they show a concert, for example, in Iran. I say, like, look, we got music, and so what's the problem? We just want to have our own style. It's far more than that. It's much more than that. So I would say to the artists in Iran, I know the response is going to be like, "Come on, you're joking us." Of course, we need to feed ourselves. We need to have an audience. We need to. So fair enough. It's like we're caught between the devil and the sea. So I can't ask them not to work with Islamic regime because I'm outside Iran. This is not going to make sense. But at least don't normalize it. Don't just come on TV and say like, yeah, music is this, that, we are doing music, or I write song. When I write songs, I think about, when it's raining, I feel, just like writing the lyrics, and don't normalize it. Just at least be true to yourself, and don't normalize the behavior of this regime and the suppression that is upon your shoulders.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just have one final question. Being a woman and being an artist, Shaya, how can we support you? How can we stand in solidarity with Iranian artists? How can women and fellow artists throughout the world support Iranian artists and getting this message out there for humanity is part of that? But what can we do? How can we be of support?
I think getting heard is the best thing that anyone can do for us, because we've been silenced for years, for many, many years. And because of that, just getting heard is enough now.
Okay, well, I make my commitment to help and to continue to help you be heard. And I send you all my love and respect. Thank you so much for this conversation. I feel so deeply humbled, so touched, so excited about the Humanity album and getting that message out there. I love all of your songs, and I think all of the Iranian artists who participated in Humanity. For the audience who's here with us, I know you're gonna love it. Get the message out there. Go to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and listen to it and share it. So thank you, Marjan, and thank you, everybody.
I want to thank Elizabeth for her amazing contribution to today's conversation, for your compassion, for your support, for listening with an open mind and an open heart, and also helping the rest of the audience open their hearts and open their minds. We deeply appreciate your work. And I hope that in addition to looking at the Humanities website and Humanities work, that all of you will check out the respectproject.org and become more familiar with the fascinating work of Elizabeth Romm and her partners with the Respect Project, and learn about her amazing and meaningful work. So thank you so much for your work. Thank you to Nufti for their for hosting today's event. Thanks to PodCon and the beautiful message from Golnar. It was absolutely to the point, and it illustrates again why we are doing this work. I want to send my sincerest thanks to the participants of today's event, the amazing artists who have not only given their songs, but they're also giving us their stories. Shaya, Behruz Ghaemi, Bardia Tagibpur, thank you so much for your meaningful and for your beautiful music. I wish you all much success in your career and safety as you proceed with sending your message. I can promise you that at Humanity, you will have supporters, you will have an audience who will be ready to listen to you and spread your message. Thank you so much, and best of luck to all of you.